Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope you're doing well. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I was thinking today about, are you as fierce without music? Because if you notice, a lot of people, they bump music and it has this reaction in them and they feel like they're tougher than they are. And when you bump certain type of music, you're sending a signal that you're threatening, that you're intimidating, that you are not someone to be messed with. It pumps you up, it gets you going. The funny thing about that is when you actually state this, when we do this, atheists will laugh and say no, but then they'll point out how Vivaldi, Mozart, Beethoven, Chopin, these musicians can make you feel calm, somber, melancholy, you name it. So they readily admit how classical music can influence you. Yet when you talk about how heavy metal and really thuggish rap can put you in a mind state that isn't the best for you in your optimal performance and mood set, they will just, call you a kook or just slander you with some religious insult. So I was thinking to myself when I was younger, why did I play a lot of Chicano rap? What was the point of that? And it gets you in a more visceral state. It pushes you to want to hurt. And it's also a form of catharsis. It's very mesmerizing and hypnotic. And you feel a release. But each time those sound waves pump into your head, they leave this imprint. And each imprint, it's like it sets your mood and starts to change your personality. And now that I do not need music in order to know that I'm capable of fierceness, of courage, bravery, emotion in general, I feel more free and in control of my thoughts. And then I begin to think even more so about how a lot of mood swings of people, I think, stems from them constantly switching the radio in their mind and physically. So think about it. You're in the car in the olden days, right? You don't know what song's coming up next. Each song makes you have an emotion. We have a lot of people with schizophrenia, bipolar, and impulsivity, anger problems, chronic depression and anxiety. And let's examine that. What is causing that? What exacerbates those symptoms? And a pill is the only answer that the scientists' lab coats have. Here's some pills, right? That's their solution to everything, is a pill. And I'm starting to really see the beauty of being music-free. Now, there are examples where I will hear the soundtrack of Game of Thrones and I'm like, that guy is a brilliant composer. The soundtrack to Gladiator, right? Davy Jones' session of Pirates of the Caribbean, right? That one was very well done. So there are composers who I will admit their music, you're like, that's phenomenal. But when we talk about one with lyrics, I'm honing in on now, you begin to see what it does to a person. For example, look at Britney Spears and how she has spiraled out of control. Look when she was in her prime, and look what the music industry did to her. Look what Disney did to her. Drugs, fame, it sabotaged her brain. And she's dancing around with knives in her kitchen, flipping her hair around. She's very unhappy, and she's fallen from her high cloud. And I remember the song she sang, like, she's so lucky, she's a star, but she cries, cries, cries from the something lonely, all I'm thinking, she's so lucky, something, 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 but why do these something, something, something? The tune, though, right? And you see her pain. And then you examine Madonna, the woman who does a lot of occult stuff and refuses to let go of her crown. And she's like this old witch. Reminds me of like an American Horror Story. There's that older witch who is craving to be young forever. And if you compare Madonna when she was natural and in her healthy state to how she's degraded and not retired in grace and class, you see what that music does to a person, right? What music did to Michael Jackson, how weird he became, what fame did. The life of the musician doesn't really end well. And it's fascinating when you think just in, like people will say Islam targets musicians, right? But even in Game of Thrones, Joffrey has one satirical musician sit on the floor and play the tune, and then he asks him which does he favor, his eyes or his hands or his tongue, I think it was. And then they took out his tongue, right? This is an example, even in fiction, where the musician is punished for what they compose because of its effects, who it harms. Obviously, he didn't want it to harm his mom's reputation, right? Or his claim on the throne. But even in fiction, we acknowledge the capability of the musician to cause trouble and to manipulate the minds. Even in kids' cartoons, you'll notice that the old classic Disney cartoons used to use music instead of words to show you an emotion. And when I remember taking music classes and them breaking it down, you begin to notice that the sheet music, it's like it does something. It's like a code that goes into you and affects you. And some people, they do get quite addicted to how the music makes them feel. I remember when Sheikh Asim Al-Hakim pointed out how if someone can't find their favorite song, they become irritable and irritated. It's like they're addicted to it. They need it in order to feel good. And then I would remember how I used to ride the bus, and then I would be going to work and I would put on music. And it was like that music would put me up to help me do a job I hated, that I didn't want to be at. And now I'm so free of music, it's like it blows my mind. But it's a slow creep to let go. As in, it's a process that you do step by step. Fast forwarding through music, paying for YouTube Premium so you don't see ads, trying to avoid as many ads as possible. And when you're driving, just hear the sounds. Put on words instead. White noise. Stuff like that. And now when I try to watch like a travel video, if they have music, I can't deal with it. It's like it feels like a fly in my ear, and it's distracting. And their taste in music is also something that doesn't align with mine. And you're like, I know we can't escape, for example, music everywhere. It's like in the grocery store and whatnot. But imagine if we could get certain genres just completely removed. How would that change the mood of people? It's quite bizarre to think that, okay, the pagans, they had follow me here, they have their drum beats and it becomes hypnotic, you know? And as they would use their mushrooms and intoxicants and smokes, and they become weird, right? The music played a key role in pushing their mind into the hypnotic state. War, right? You see how many had a drummer boy. And this was to motivate the men and to help dispel fear. You know, look at the uses of horns, war drums, music instruments, and shamanic rituals. You can't deny the effect, right? Even cinema, it's like it's so many different angles you can look at this. So the fact that the atheist dismisses it and mocks it as religious superstitions is quite lazy, to be honest. So the question I'm getting at here, with all that being said, is if someone can only be tough while the music is playing, they're not really as tough as they think they are. Like, if you're a Ramsay Bolton or a Tywin Lannister, you don't need the music, you are. How many young youths, while they're smoking weed and drinking, have the music bumping in the car so loud where it has the bass, and it's vibrating the car, and they feel like that peak, and then they pull the trigger, they pull out the knife, they toss a beer bottle at somebody out the window. They're so pumped up and in the zone. How many of them make a terrible mistake because the music helped to kind of infect their veins and make them almost blinded by their own rage? Because the music is like, it can overwhelm you to where you can't win it. It's like if you try to laugh while a very sad cello song is on, it's quite difficult, isn't it? Because the music is pushing back against your thoughts. It's like sending signals into your brain, and your ears are listening to it, and it's hard to have a different emotion than what is being played, right? You can be neutral, the music comes on, and now it's evoking things in you. When you listen to the four seasons, I believe, of Vivaldi, winter, spring, you close your eyes, you picture it in your head what's happening. You can feel like the spring music is very sprite. It's like bubbly. And then when there's winter, it's like, or autumn, there's a change in it, and the depth. It's not so high anymore, the pitch and the tones, but there's more deep. And just that, your brain can picture a scenery. If each person could paint the scene in their mind, like you were sitting next to someone, they play a song, you both paint a picture of what you envisioned, you would see some patterns. So this shows us that the notes of the music has similar effects on people. Therefore, if we have certain genres of music, we cannot sit there and think that it's not harming the youth. If a nation allows music that really creates chaos within the soul of the individual young men and women, we then have to see that it's our culture that is producing criminality, producing wickedness, and destabilizing the minds of the individuals. You would notice that in some Latino music, like Mexican novela songs, the romanticos, like the romantic songs, they will have, like Vicente Hernandez, those men get drunk and then they listen to a sad romance song and they start to cry. How many people, if they cut off that music, could become better? Really goes to show you how it impacts you. So I think it's important for young men and women to realize you're not as tough as you think you are if you need the music in order to bring about the mood. You either are or you are not. And if you know in your heart that you need the music in order to go real rugged, then you are not that. You are not that. And you need more self-discovery. What are you capable of when the music is off? Women will say, I have to turn on some R&B music when I'm going to be with my man. And it's like, so then do you really like him? If you need music to put you in the mood and set the mood, you can't evoke the passion naturally in you. That shows you don't actually like him, and you need to work on your real connection. If you two were in the cabins on the top of a mountain and didn't have electricity, you wouldn't be able to do anything as well because you didn't have the music? What's going on here? Same thing with working out in music. It does something to you, but shouldn't you take away that pacifier and be able to have that steadfast ruggedness in your workout without the music? Think about who's more scary. The one who needs the music to set the mood for their wrath, or the one who has it inherently and can go from a stoic steadiness to the warpath with clarity. And there's that saying that people use, when the lights turn on and the music turns off, then people wake up out of the trance in the club, right? Like, oh, whoa. So intoxicants, music, lights. So if you can still be that savage when you're sober, the lights are on and there's no music, you are the one. It's fascinating. I've been thinking about this because when I hear that music now, some women and men, they look at you like you're talking with your eyes, like they're trying to tell you, like, hey, you know, I'm all about that. And then you think in your head, are you though? And that's like when you get into like, what is fear and what does it mean to be feared? Look at like Hannibal Lecter. He had the classical music in the background, but what made that director use that music is that he was a cannibal, which is a very deep level of evil, and he didn't need rap music. He didn't need heavy metal. The music clashed with the action, because classic music is usually used in a high class scenery, and he was eating in a like how you would eat some foie gras, you know, fancy duck liver, right? But what he was doing was anything but, and who he was anything but. And that's what made it such an iconic cinematic moment, because he was that. And if he turned off that classic music, you took away a level of evil that showed the sinisterness. But Anthony Hopkins played the role so well that he was that. You see what I'm trying to say? So if you think you're tough and you're trying to be a rapper, I think that's like a masquerade clown. Because you wouldn't need rap in order to prove how tough you are. You would just be. And you wouldn't need the validation. You wouldn't need to tell somebody, I'm going to pistol whip you, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And like, the bars are very low, it's very low grammar. And poetry can be powerful. And rap, good rap, sounds like poetry and it doesn't need a beat. That's why I'm super impressed with people who can say political raps and have certain lines and there's no beat. Because the beat can make a song appear better than what it is. Example, Taylor Swift. Or, you know, Lady Gaga, Katy Perry. They need visuals, beauty, and the music, but their lyrics are nothing. So, if you take away all that and just have the lyrics, you see they're not as talented. So it goes to show you more that music plays the role in creating a smoke screen for who they are as a person. Are they talented or are they not? Same thing with rap music. So it's important to teach your kids to not be intimidated by that kind of music, because the gangsters are cool in school. They play their music, they use the slang, and then they threaten you as if they are about that life. But actually, the gangster is predictable and doesn't really have as much intelligence as they think. They just have raw violence, and not even guerrilla violence, right? If you look at militants, guerrilla warfare, mercenaries, different types of soldiers, you'll see that they're actually more organized. They don't need music. Gangster rapper types, they need the music, and they use their music in order to impress really dumb low quality women. And it's fascinating how the women think, I'm safe with this guy because he's tough and he's a rapper and he slangs drugs. But if he was actually fierce, you'd feel his energy of fierceness with just that piercing gaze, his stride, how he sits, what he talks about, how he breathes. This actually shows you as a woman who really is a protector, who can stop a threat. We are so used to the barking dogs, we forgot about the dogs that hunt silently. They use their nose, and they seek and destroy. They don't bark so the birds fly. They are more sly and hidden. So who really is the threat? Is this the strong, silent type? It's not the one who's barking and barking. There was one video, for example, let me illustrate this. Two dogs are on the other side. They're barking at each other. They open the gate. The two dogs act like they don't know each other. They close the gate again, and the dogs keep barking at each other with intimidation. That's kind of like what certain types of musical genres are, is they are a buffer. They're bluffing in a way as well. They make you think something there that isn't. Doesn't mean that they won't throw away their life. See, the gangster rapper thug throws away their life really easily. So what you have to fear only about them is their unpredictability, but they don't actually care about themselves. The ones you really have to fear the most, like you see those gangster rappers as like a wild animal, you know, a very tricky coyote. You see it and you're like, yeah, we know what he's up to. But you fear more of that tiger hidden in the bush who's just staring at you. Now that, they're not going to bark before they pounce. They're not going to roar before they pounce. They're just going to do it. Right? And the tiger wants to live. The way a tiger mauls is quite different than the way a coyote comes at you. It's interesting. Even the way the crocodile comes up out of the water and just has the eyes. Holds so still. You're in your boat. Oh, I want to catch this toad. And then you go in there. Brump. And then it does its death spiral. Pulls you into that green mossy water. And that's it for you. So the alligator, the crocodile. There's so many creatures that are fierce, and they simply are. But humans have the ability to create a mirage. Okay? So we don't need to be impressed with the gangster thugs, because they're letting you know how foolish they actually are. If they're actually formidable, they wouldn't alert you to who they are. The music is like an alarm. It's like a, look at me, look at me. And you're like, okay. It's like you have a fence, and this barking dog is outside your fence. You identify it, you spotted it, and now you can grab the 12 gauge. But the dog that you had just been outside, and all of a sudden here comes this dog over the fence with no barking and comes at you, that's more deadly. Do you see my point? The silent whoosh, dog who comes at you and mauls you so fast that your body didn't have a time to react. Sound, scent, spotting the animal for a reaction. Whereas the one who's barking, now you're alert, now you can prepare for the reaction and the defense. So these young teens, they want to be tough. They want to fit in. So they think they gotta choose that music in order to say, I'm dangerous, you better be afraid of me. It's a bluff, because some of them are deeply insecure, and they don't have a proper father to show them what is strength. How can you be feared? And sometimes you have to hide that inner nature of you that can be unleashed at any time. Some people have to learn the hard way. And you're like, wow. How do you measure somebody who doesn't bark before? The eyes, the body language, the different ways in which we measure somebody. Right? It's interesting. That's why you can't take wisdom from an intoxicated mind. And you can't truly fear the rabid gangster rapper. Because they don't have true fear. They don't have formidableness. They are loose cannons. So you must take caution. But they are the lower forms. They're not as tough as they think they are. It's interesting. Really interesting. So can you be as fierce without the music? If you go to war, you don't have your little headphones set in your YouTube videos to carry out what you have to carry out. It's fascinating when you think about if there was some type of zombie apocalypse, The Last of Us, anarchy, pure everything's destroyed, the true nature of people will come out very quickly. You'll see who has the metal and who doesn't. Who now was once appearing to be the lion, but is now the llama. Who's gonna get sheared? Something to think about. So if you are walking and you see girls like smoking blunts and playing music and twerking, and you have to be that steadiness. You can't let that music bump you off. It's like you're walking steady. If you let that bass music like mess up your rhythm, they've won. And they can smell it. They can see it. Don't be the scared horse. Don't be skittish. You have to be there. And your breathing plays a key role. Even gazing. Don't even gaze at them like they're a threat. You scan, right? Measure, scan. Because they want you to look at them. Like, oh, I need to see that they think I'm a threat. I need to look like with my pants below my, I need to show my butt crack, and I need to sag, and I need to have a ridiculous large chain, or a button up, or some Cortez shoes, Nikes. So I gotta show them. This is interesting. It's quite fascinating. It's quite fascinating. Why would the young men think that's how you become feared? Because gangs are all about numbers. Why do they need numbers? Because they're disposable. They're interchangeable. Now, in the Quran, there's the ant and the bee. These are creatures that work in unison and as one unit. And they have teamwork. And they build and they can dismember. The bee builds the hive, gives you the honey. Ants, they dig tunnels and create a vast network. And it's really cool when you see some ants when they take over and they're like eating something. They break it down, right? They work together. And when you see the carpenter ants, they're taking leaves and they're building, you're like, huh, they're organized, disciplined. They carry out their tasks. It's fascinating how we can be in groups and get things done for the betterment and beauty, for the community. Gangs appear to be like family, but they're not. They don't build anything. They destroy only. And they build, if they do build, they build maliciousness, evil, suffering, agony, anarchy, torment, disarray, disillusionment, everything negative. So if you think you're going to become better by joining something that's worse, you're wrong. It's interesting to think about how many of those musicians are going to be in the flames. Put where they belong. Put with their kind. Men want to be feared. A lot of them. And so do women in a different way. But men want to be feared. So if you want your kids to get away from the gangs, you have to teach them to know that they can possess that strong strength without having to tell anyone about it. They don't need to signal all the time. They simply need to be. It's a very interesting thing to think about. The music is a mask. It's a cover-up. It isn't real. It's like too many feathers on a very puffy bird. You take off all those feathers, you see how tiny the bird really is. How unpretty it is. How little meat it actually has. But the bird wasn't meant to have meat. It was meant to be looked at. So what's the point of the gang member? The gang member is to be a nuisance, a flea, a tick, a tapeworm, a maggot. They're not there to create beauty in the society. They're an infection. So if there was an animal that sang, that was evil, and okay, so let's take, for example, a rattlesnake. they have a rattle to let you know that they have poison. So the person who listens to rap is letting you hear their rattle, that they are poisoned. They want to appear tough and secure, with a high self-esteem, that they're about true wrath, true vengeance, true revenge. But in reality, they're willing to throw away their life and dress in a way that isn't scary at all. It's interesting even further when you examine old school Italian mafia guys dressing in suits, but they have some twisted ways to take you out. The cartels, they don't have rap. They have corridos, perrones is what it's called. But their music is different. Still trash. For your soul, that is. But they'll put like with Valentini Zalde, they put up rounds after rounds after rounds in his SUV. And they do excessive signals. And they dress like cowboys. And in an Americana, cowboy is a good boy. You see that? That's what's interesting. The Americana cowboy, both Latino and white, wholesome family values, hard work, tending to animals, doing their duty every day, no matter the weather, finding stray calves, bringing them back, training horses, grooming the horses, cleaning their teeth, all that. They were good. And the flip side of that is the inverted cowboy, the inverted vaquero, who becomes a bandillero. It's really quite interesting. But my point is that the particular genre of rap music is a flex. It's not real. It's an illusion. You don't need to be fearful of people who play the music. It may give you goosebumps when they drive by. It may make you anxious. It may make you feel weird when they drive slowly through your neighborhood at night. They're signaling, trying to send you a signal that we're going to hurt you, we're going to terrorize you, we make poor decisions, we don't have a problem with going to jail for life, we don't have proper trigger discipline, and we don't care about the nobleness of the Second Amendment. We are menaces to society, and we're letting you know, and we're bragging and boasting about it via our music, right? And the lyrics can say something, but the beat itself, it's the heartbeat of the song. It pumps in the energy into you, and how your body reacts to it will tell you a lot about what is the true nature of that music, regardless of what some fart-sniffing atheist says. It's the real, in terms of it's letting you know they're up to no good, they're a menace, and that you should not trust them. There's no loyalty amongst those types. They're reckless, loose cannons to be manipulated and sent on endless missions that are kamikaze in nature. So, at the end of the day, boys must be taught to be truly fierce without the music. Could you be in rags with no music and still have that nature about you? Or do you need to have the ridiculous shoes, the pants, the watch, the chain, the hat, the car, and then the music, and then you feel tough? Can you be that when you're starving, when you're freezing? Ask yourself that. Because in prison, you'll find out if you really were about that life, but it'll be too late. So examine it now while you can. Know yourself, know who you are, and be true to your nature and improve upon yourself. And don't let music put a false sense of identity in you. It's very interesting. That's why I always hated the women who would listen to Cardi B, because I could tell you want to act like that, but you know what some people are capable of doing to you without that music, you can mimic her all you want. All female rappers suck. They all talk about their badge. They're all passed around. They're not really tough. The scary woman is like one who is behind a corporate desk and simply has to give orders for a SEAL team to go after you. Or the daughter of someone who's very, very powerful and very, very evil. Or someone who is alone in the woods and knows certain herbs. Like, there's all types of lethal women. And none of the lethal women are really the ghetto rappers or heavy metal ladies. They'll do crimes. But, as I said, they're like that goat that'll ram you with their horns. But if you have your staff, you can block your kneecaps from them. And you can grab them by the horns when they charge and drag them. They're predictable. They're identifiable. They don't have camouflage, and they let you know by their noises who they are, so they can be spotted with and prepared for. Their style of clothing, their music lets you know what they're about, so you can prepare. It's the ones who don't have that you have to prepare for. And that's why the truly foolish ones are the ones who think that they're potent because of their music. Something to think about. Let me know your thoughts. It's a very serious conversation. And if you'd like to join my blog, it's www.subscribestar.com/Milahan Archive. Hope to see you there.